Today, we're talking about hips. Most of us get some movement in our hips when we walk, or even when we run. And that's good. We definitely need to do that. What our hips love the most is rotation, which we don't get when we do this. This is flexion and extension. That's extension. What our hips really, really love is some rotation. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You need to be able to stand and hold on to something. If balance is not an issue for you, you do not have to hold on to something, but this is not about balance here. This is all about getting some nice rotation in our hips. So if you've got a fireplace mantle handy, a staircase, or even just the wall, something that can help you with your balance, should you choose to do so. So we want to come into like our mountain pose. So we're standing on both feet, just kind of feeling what that's like, what neutral is. Most of the weight in our heels here. And just kind of notice with your pelvis, are you really tucking your tailbone under and shifting the hips forward? Are you really sticking out your tailbone? Just kind of coming into what's right in between there. All right, we'll start with the leg that's furthest from the wall. So for me, this is my left leg. I'm going to put all the weight into my right leg, and then I'm going to draw my knee up. And then I'm going to turn it out and send it back. And continue just like that. Drawing the knee, the thigh up towards the body, turning the leg out, and then sending it back. Keeping that knee bent the whole time, keeping your attention on the hip, thinking about that thigh bone, that femur bone as it femur thigh bone as it rotates around in the hip socket. Something else you want to think about is keeping the torso, the upper body, still. Maybe even engaging a little bit. Maybe this is an opportunity to engage your abdominals slightly. What we try not to do, and it's not because it's wrong or injurious, but what we try not to do is send that leg back and come forward. If we do that, again, there's nothing wrong with that, but basically that's like being upright. You're just not getting that a little bit more extension in the hip. So I encourage you just to try to stand up as tall as you can. I've been doing these for a long time, teaching them for a long time, so I can do a whole bunch of these now. If you're first starting out, it can be pretty tiresome. I'm going to switch to the other side. And before you start moving the other side, just pause and kind of notice, even just in this little bit of time that I was talking to you, whoa, my left hip feels a whole lot different than my right. So I encourage you to take that pause and notice, like, why are you doing this? Is there an effect? So that's an important part of yoga too, is that awareness. So moving on to side two, something else to note is your hip circles might look different than mine, especially when you first start. Maybe this is how big your hip circles are. That's great. They don't have to look like anybody else's. You may find, though, day to day, or even as you're pausing and noticing right today as you're doing this, that as you do it, maybe those circles get a little bit bigger. Maybe that thigh comes up a little higher. Maybe the leg turns out a little more. Maybe the leg gets sent back a little more. Maybe. Just want to make sure you know that just because your hip circles look different than mine doesn't mean you're doing them wrong. I think sometimes our temptation too when we start to turn that leg out is to twist, and that's just not giving you as much rotation in the hip as you do that. So see if you can keep your body tall, upright, engaged, and straight ahead. Keeping that attention on the movement of the thigh bone in the hip socket. And after several, or maybe it's 2 or 3 if you're not used to this movement, pause and notice. So those are some hip mobility circles for you. Please give them a try and let me know if I can help you out.